Welcome to Emerging Ease, where we will focus on unraveling the difficulties in the midst of our journey and move toward forward progress. This program is not meant to replace any form of therapy, and you are encouraged to seek out a mental health professional if necessary. Hey, welcome. You're back with Emerging Ease with Keisha on the Batchelor News Radio Network. Um, to give you a little bit of an introduction for today, we're going to talk about surviving abuse and manipulative interactions. Before we get started, I want to let you guys know that you can advertise with us. As you see on the little caricature I have, it starts as low as $50. We can talk about that. If you're interested, please email me at emergingease@gmail.com. Also, please join the Facebook group, Emerging Ease. It's two separate words on Facebook. We have about 350 some odd people right now. So come on in and let's talk. Let's get started. So today we're talking about surviving abuse and manipulative interactions. I really want us to be mindful of how these things can get started. And oftentimes, abuse is usually experienced in some form during our childhood, and we may, as we grow into adults, continue abusive interactions with others that we didn't find helpful from before. And we'll kind of talk about that. So, from the childhood perspective, we're looking at from childhood being in abusive situations that can be a limitless amount of things. Either you experience physical, verbal, mental, emotional abuse, even sexual abuse. Maybe you witnessed domestic violence in your family. Maybe there was substance use in the family, and therefore you had adverse consequences from someone else's use and or alcoholism. There could have been neglect. There could have been absenteeism from one of your parents. What these are called, and it's all kinds of things. There could even be things in the community, like growing up in a community, you didn't feel safe, you didn't feel that you could trust others. Those things are called adverse childhood experiences. With adverse childhood experiences, as an adult, they don't just go away when you turn 18. You just don't turn 18 like, ooh, that's over. Let me move on in life. You still have to unravel all of that you went through and what it meant to you. That's why even last week when we talked about your testimony and the power of your testimony, that's part of your testimony. And looking at all of those difficulties, those traumatic events, traumatic experiences, traumatic interactions you may have had with other people, looking at that and what you got from it, and then being able to look at that trauma and think about, what am I doing now with this trauma? Because it doesn't just disappear. You can unravel it and identify what to do with that energy in a positive way. You can allow it to help you stagnate. And I did say help you stagnate because it's a choice. Or you can use it and say, you know what, since I had to go through it, I'm going to make sure other people have to go through it. And that's the most negative, unhealthy way, because then it keeps that negativity going forward for other people as well as yourself. So with adverse childhood experiences, the thing is, those happen before the age of 18, so 18 and below. And the reason they're looked at more often nowadays than they have been in the past is because people are really starting to realize how much their upbringing has impacted how they think now, what their beliefs are like now, why they interact with people the way they do. Okay, why they even receive certain interactions from folks the way they do. Um, with these adverse childhood experiences, when those occur as a child, you really don't usually have power in saying, I choose not to interact with this person, or I choose to leave this household because it's so, you know, traumatizing and hurtful and difficult. And so therefore I'm going to go somewhere else. Usually the folks that we have in our family, how functional or dysfunctional they may be. Yeah, because some of us got some doozies. We've got to stay there and deal with it. Now, the thing is, as an adult, when you move into adulthood and you have the ability to choose to get away from it, you can physically leave the situations and environments, but you still have to look at how those experiences are still impacting you. Imagine you had a traumatic childhood experience at the age of 10, and now you're 60. If you have never looked at how that impacted you, you could very well still be living in the belief that was developed from that traumatic experience. Um, as I've told you guys before I started working with folks out in the community, I worked with people in the criminal justice system. And so many times with those folks that I would work with, m- their thinking was derived from the adverse childhood experiences they had. And so, therefore, their beliefs remained the same. They never allowed themselves to challenge it, never allowed themselves to see past those experiences. And so, therefore, those beliefs transferred over into how they thought and how they interacted with other people, therefore helping them move directly into the criminal justice system, which anyone who knows anyone in that system or has been a part of the system, is very difficult to get out. It's a lot of hard work to get out of it. So you have to be mindful about that. Um, Another thing to look at is the mindset that comes from having those types of experiences in your life. The mindset that I'm talking about is that of a victim. Now, I want to talk about the difference between a victim and and a survivor. Okay, a victim, and this is why I don't ever use this word with anyone that I work with, or even friends or family, even for myself. The victim has absolutely no ability to impact their environment. Things happen to them. And if something bad happens, someone is abusive to them in some kind of way, well, there's nothing I can do. Matter of fact, I may have to just stay here because they told me that um, I won't be able to find anyone that cares for me, that'll treat me any differently. So I just have to stay where I'm at. I have to just accept that, it's my role in life to be a victim, to be victimized. Now, a survivor, the other side of that is a survivor says, yes, these horrible things happened to me, happened around me, I experienced them, but I have the ability and the power to decide if I want to stay in that or if I want to move forward. Now, it doesn't say that the trauma is any different for a victim or a survivor, but the survivor, their mindset is focused on moving forward, not staying in that hurtful situation. Also, that survivor is going to be mindful of what are some things that could trigger memories of that trauma that I went through before? What are some things that could be red flags and interactions I have with other people? What are some things that I can do to help have an impact on my environment? We cannot control our environment 100% of the time. And what I mean by that is you can't control the paths that you'll cross throughout the day unless you just lock yourself in the house, in the back room, and don't tell anybody where you're at. You're playing hide and seek all by yourself. You can't control the things that, or the way that you may have to get what you need, meaning you need money to be able to pay for food, shelter, water, all of that. So therefore you go to a job. You can't tell them who to hire and fire. You have to figure out a way to deal with those people. Okay. Um, with our interactions with other people, we can't choose how they interact with us, but we can choose what we receive from them. So that's why I tell people you can't control everything 100% of the time. Now, what you can control is how you receive it, decide to hold it, or decide to, hey, you keep that. I'm not going to take that in. We talked about that when we were talking about not taking things personal. Things are not about you. People that interact with you in a hurtful way, a traumatic way, a manipulative way, that's their choice. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. But you don't have to choose to take that in. Now, with a person that has experienced trauma and abuse in their childhood, many times those folks may start to identify a cycle of interactions with other people in their life. And they may think, well, dang, why do I keep attracting this kind of person? Why do I keep entering into this type of relationship? Well, the thing is, it's really, I hate to say it, it's subconscious, because you have to get into the crux of what those experiences in your past have, how they've impacted your belief system. Okay. So the thing is, and I'm gonna give you a very basic breakdown of how beliefs are. So I kind of like to use the analogy of bubbles. So there's a big bubble, it's called your schema. Your schema is where you say all men, blah, 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 all women, blah, blah, blah. So all men are not trustworthy, all women are not trustworthy. That's the big bubble. So then that's the schema. So coming from the schema is a smaller bubble of beliefs. So in your beliefs, you may say men are not trustworthy because they say hurtful things. Women are not trustworthy because they say hurtful things. Whatever it is that's supporting whatever this schema is. The schema says these folks are not trustworthy. This is going to tell you why, your beliefs. So therefore, in your thinking, when you're interacting with the people that are in this specific bubble category, you're thinking, well, I can't trust men, I can't trust women because blah, 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 blah. So therefore, they're going to try to hurt me. They're going to try to get over on me. What that does in your subconscious is the very thing you say, hey, I need to avoid this. Your subconscious is picking up, oh, look for blah, blah, blah. So look for somebody that's going to tell you a story. Look for somebody that's going to try to get over on you. Look for, and subconsciously, the things you're trying to avoid, consciously, your subconscious is like, hey, I'm going to that. Not because your subconscious is working against you, but that is what your subconscious knows. It's comfortable with that. Okay. That's why I encourage people, when you go into therapy, be prepared for the work in it, because there is work in looking at past experiences, looking at current experiences, unraveling those and breaking them down, and then rebuilding them to what you want. That's the work that's in therapy. I'll get on that soapbox a different time. But when you are not breaking those things down, you may say, golly, every person I meet, it's just the same insides with a different outside. I know there was a song about that. I can't think of what it was. It's probably highly inappropriate. I probably shouldn't even be recalling it right now. But the thing is, when we are not challenging what we've experienced in the past, then we are, I hate to say it, doomed to keep repeating it. So let's say you are attracted to trifling men or trifling women, until you choose to start breaking down what is it in my past, what is it in my current that I'm allowing to replay inside of me, because these folks don't have your name on a sheet of paper talking about find this person right here. Find them. Everybody you can, go find them. They're not looking for you. You are interacting with them. You're drawn to them in their circle. Because if you think about it, if you weren't, then why? How are you meeting these people? There's one gentleman I worked with a few years back, several years back actually, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, every time I start dating someone, I'm so focused on they're so beautiful and they're this, that, and the other, and all of it was external. And the only time the internal came up is when he realized when he would start talking about his finances, then that's when he'd find out that they are worried about his finances." So I said, well, then what would be the step before that? So let's work backwards. And so he says, well, when I'm meeting them, I identify beauty, so I start giving them things. And so I said, so you're trying to see if they're going to be magnetized by your money. So then, therefore, when they are, you're like, haha, subconsciously, like, yay, check, I got another one. Externally, you're so focused on the beauty, you're refusing to see the red flag. So you have to be mindful. What are you putting out there to keep attracting these people? That's why I tell people to always be mindful of going back and unraveling stuff. And I call it unraveling because life is very much like a ball of paper. You can unravel it, and it's still gonna have little crinkles in it, but you can still read the things that are on there. You can still decipher them in a different way. It's just the paper is not new and fresh like it used to be. So before we keep going, let me take a brief break to explain, excuse me, not explain, to tell you about Featured Album Friday, which is tomorrow. It's Friday. It's every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And this week's artist, featured artist, is Music Soul Child. And if y'all know, I love some neo soul. So Music Soul Child is amazing. Also, tune in to all of the love songs that will be played during Whisper Softly, which is Sunday through Friday at 8 p.m. to midnight on the Batchelor News Radio Network. We'll take a brief break and we'll come back and keep talking.
Have you seen that new plastic coffee container? Did you know it actually absorbs aroma from the coffee? At Maxwell House, we think the aroma should stay where it belongs, in the coffee, not the container. Our steel can won't absorb our rich coffee aroma, and, unlike plastic, it's a perfect barrier against coffee's worst enemies, moisture and oxygen. So choose Maxwell House with the fresh steel can, and make every day good to the last drop.
All right, y'all. Welcome back. So, in challenging your subconscious so that you can consciously start being more mindful about the people you attract, you have to also challenge the thought process of being a victim. Because also that gentleman, once he started to unravel all that stuff and say, oh gosh, I am setting myself up to keep attracting the same person. Once he started looking at, he sees himself as victimized by these people. So therefore, I can't do anything about it. And so I keep attracting these people, or I keep looking for them because I have sat in and accepted the role of victim. Now, the other thing about that, the irony of it is, once you unravel all of that and you start putting something new in place, mind you, I think this gentleman was like 45-ish. So he had been living in that mindset for really ever since he was 8. So going forward, when he's like, okay, I got it all unraveled. Now what do I do? Well, now you got to figure out a different way to have a different schema, because you destroyed the schema, you've destroyed the beliefs. Therefore, you're challenging the thoughts and you stop the behavior that's coming from all of that. So when you start over, you're starting like at bare bones, nothing. It's just dirt. So now you have to develop a schema of all whoever is this and all whoever is that, or all men are better, all men are different, all women are better, all women are different. Okay. And then you start to develop those beliefs. You have to consciously, as well as unconsciously, or subconsciously, I should say, walk in those things that you're trying to put in place. So you have to always be on your toes mentally, to challenge yourself, as well as emotionally, because your emotions are tools. When we're not tuning in to what we need to focus on, those emotions will kick in and be like, slow down, you're going too fast. You need to come back and let's start this over again and do this a different way. So in that, he had to walk in the beliefs and supporting the beliefs and finding evidence to support the beliefs, because the irony is that when people recognize, like, oh, this is what it was, and that wrinkled piece of paper is out in front of them, what often they'll do and say, okay, well, I'm ready to get back out here and interact with people and everything's wonderful. But in all actuality, not so much, because they'll keep the same behavior but expect a different result. So initially, when he was like, okay, I got it, I understand, I see myself, I'm going back out here, he went back to the same place he had met the last 3 women, which was a hole in the wall. And y'all know what a hole in the wall is. Not saying anything bad about a hole in the wall, because a good hole in the wall is a fun time. But you're not really usually going to meet your forever person there. Some people may, but you know. So he went back to the same place. It was a hole in the wall, same behavior. Hey, I got this money. I just got paid. What can I give you? And then he met another person that was so much like the other people. He was like, well, dang, figuring out my stuff didn't help me. Well, no, it didn't, because you didn't change anything. You have to be active at all times and in tune with yourself to call yourself on it. Like, okay, if someone wants to spend time with me, let them spend time with me. Let them get to know me. Let's talk about stuff. I shouldn't have to give my whole financial statement or tell them, hey, I just got paid today, so let's hang out, because that opens you up to be like, oh, well, you got some money in your pocket. Let's see how much you gonna let me help you spend on me. Being mindful of that. Now, the other thing is when he did finally meet someone by changing his behavior, it changed who he attracted. He did meet someone that was a very nice person, from what I was told about the young lady. The irony is he was so suspicious of that lady, he destroyed the relationship. Oh, well, she's gonna ask me for this. Has she done it? Have you offered? Did you start off the interaction like that? No. Well, she's saying she wants to work with you. Yeah. Well, see, that's the mindset challenge. When you do meet someone different, when you do have different friendships, different interactions, different work interactions, different atmospheres, you also have to challenge yourself while you're looking to see, are there any red flags I need to be mindful of? What's going on within you? What are you unsteady because dang, this is something new and I don't know how it's going to turn out? Possibly, and that's fine. Be in that state, experience it, because that'll help you reinforce the things that um you need to do so you can maintain that change. You can get from victim to survivor. Um I want to touch on manipulation, because also some people who have been in abusive situations, they can develop a manipulative way to interact with others. Also, manipulation can happen from any place. Okay, so I want to say one thing. Let's clarify. By nature, people can be manipulative, and that's folks with good intentions, folks with not so good intentions. Because overall, every person is seeking to get their needs met. Some people by any means necessary, and that can be a hard road to go. Other people will be more persuasive in the manipulation, like, well, don't you want to do blah, 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 because, then you'll get this and you'll get that, but they're not talking about what they're getting. So I want to look at manipulation from a different perspective, not just, hey, that's horrible, big, and wrong, but manipulation has purpose to it. It's going to help you gain what you're looking for, either needs or wants. If you can think about a baby, the most innocent people on earth, babies, little babies, especially before they get to talking, because they'll tell it all, won't they? But babies will start to identify at a very early age, you know, if I cry around this certain person, what do I get? Especially if they're like me, and I'm gonna just tell on my babysitter, she's an awesome woman. But oh my goodness, she had my girls eating, sucking on chicken bones and eating real food at what, 3, 4 months. So they knew when I'm with her, I'm gonna eat good. When I get back with mom, she gonna try and give me that baby food stuff. Ugh. And so children learn very early, like, this is what I like, or this is what I want. And I know this person may address it like this, whereas this person will address it differently. Now, there's nothing horrible or harmful in that. They're just learning how to interact in their environments. Okay. So with adults, we have to look at usually the way we interact growing up, especially if we're going through difficult times in our life, the way we learn to interact then, unless we challenge them at some point in our life, that is very much which still ingrained as adults, which we talked about that last week. That until you challenge those agreements that you've made in your life, in adulthood, you'll still be living by childhood agreements like that you made at maybe 7 or 8. And you're like, why am I frustrated? I'm 52 and I'm just so frustrated in life. Because you're still living according to 8-year-old's agreement. Um, so manipulation is to gain things, your needs or your wants. Also, manipulation can be used to avoid. I don't want to face the truth, so I'm going to switch the situation around and change words around and stack extra words just so I confuse the situation and therefore I get to avoid it. That avoidance is not necessarily because I feel like I'm going to be hurt. That avoidance because I really don't feel like changing and I enjoy where I'm at right now. So if I'm comfortable, you got to figure it out. And I'm going to avoid until either A, you leave me alone, or B, you comply. So I'm going to just keep avoiding the situation. Another reason manipulation is used is to protect oneself. So this comes with someone that feels very fragile, vulnerable. And so manipulation for that person is very different. It's to protect self from harm, whether they perceive it as mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual. And so they're looking at life through, I've already gone through so much stuff, or I've dealt with so much stuff, they may not even quite see themselves as a survivor. They may externally verbalize that, but they still internally see themselves as weak, vulnerable, easily hurt, unable to protect themselves. So therefore, they use manipulation. In that manipulation, their whole goal is not necessarily to hit a come up, but it is to, by any means necessary, know that I'm not going to be hurt. Know that no one is going to be able to enter into my inner space, my inner circle of friends, my personal space, my space where, only those who are close to my heart are. And so, therefore, they will be manipulative. Sometimes these folks can be considered like, in a sense, off putting or standoffish. And that's just their first level of manipulation. Also, they can come across as very cunning. And so they come up with these big, huge, creative, elaborate ideas, schemes, lies. And so, therefore, it's always to throw someone off. Now, the thing is, when we're looking at these different reasons people use manipulative interaction, because in this show, we're focusing on you. It's not to look outward, but to look inward. Why are you using manipulation? If you're using manipulation and manipulative interactions with other people, are you using it to gain something, to avoid something, or to protect yourself? If you're doing it to protect yourself, then you need to start looking at where you feel like you've been victimized, where you feel the trauma has been in your life, and identify a way to get to process it so that you can overcome it. In that, now I'm going to jump on my soapbox of therapy. I encourage everyone to seek therapy from a mental health professional, not from cousin, not from auntie that talks to everybody, not from grandma and them, and not from the lady down that sit on the street corner and she's very wise. Not those people. From a mental health professional. And the reason I'm such an advocate for that, not because I'm a mental health professional, but because a mental health professional can work with you from very various modalities for one. Also, they will be the one to refer, like, hey, if you need some type of medication, hey, I got someone, I can send them a report on what your status is in therapy, and therefore it goes into a more professional realm. Now, also, there are therapists that can refer you to people that may prescribe natural remedies. Those folks are out there. If you don't want medications, totally understand. But I encourage the mental health professional also because of the ethics that are involved. With a mental health professional, you should not be sitting in your neighborhood, wherever, uh, restaurant or grocery store or whatever, and hear anything about your life and your story being recounted. However, the lady, the wise person that sits on the corner, she'll go tell all your business. Now you're out there. What you gonna do? You just out there. You tell Granny and them, the minute Granny and them get mad at you, they want to go run you through to the family. So that's why I encourage people to seek out mental health professionals. Well, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today to Emerging Ease with Keisha on the Batchelor News Radio Network. I hope today's discussion has been and will continue to be helpful to you in your life's journey. I'll see you all next week. Also, make sure you check out the rebroadcast on the thebatchelornews.airtime.pro. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you for taking such a time as this to participate in your personal improvement with Emerging Ease. I'm Keisha, your host. Remember that in everything, there's an opportunity to learn and grow. If you are experiencing a difficult time, please reach out to the National Crisis Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. And I look forward to hearing from you next week on Emerging Ease with Keisha.